welcome all. I'm not exactly sure how many, but it's so good to have you here on a Friday lunchtime. And of course, I've pulled you away from your corporate lunches or your Friday afternoon early exit from work off to the bar or something, because we're talking nutrition here. So welcome everybody. It's fabulous to see how the Men's Health Week is finishing up with nutrition. And today we have two incredible panelists who demonstrate the best of that, the best practices of that. So welcome to Naomi Fitzgerald from the Western Bulldogs Senior Health Promotion Office, Coordinator, and Claire Keating, who is a Master's of Dietetics. What is it?
Dietetics.
Dietetics, right? So that
dietitian.
It sounds incredibly healthy, right? That's a word that's so healthy I can't even eat it, right? So I can't pronounce it. So let me get into the day then, and look forward to these guys rather than me chatting. But I would say the week of lunchtime seminars has been awesome, and I hope many of you guys who have attended other sessions will get as much out of today's session as we've had during the week. So let's start by acknowledging country, and I would like to acknowledge the custodians of the country on which I come to you today from, which is the Gai-Mari-Gal country in Northern Beaches in Sydney. And I would ask you to just quietly acknowledge the country, the peoples of the countries on which you are attending the seminar. I would like to acknowledge the custodianship of our First Nations people, their connection to land, sea and air, and the stories and culture that they continue to this day to present to this country, enriching us. I'd also like to acknowledge the leaders of the First Nations, emerging, past and present. So thank you all for attending today. So the Australian Men's Health Forum present men and, what are we calling it? Men and nutrition, men and best practice nutrition. And to do that, we have two amazing panelists. How do you guys feel about your bios? Would you like me to read them off, or would you like to share them yourself? Or so this is always a moment, isn't it? So, let me just tell you about Claire is a educator in this space, right? Spends the time not just advising people one-on-one, but also social media and website and other education outputs. She has a Master of Dietetics and is a practicing dietitian and member of the appropriate bodies. Naomi is the Senior Health Promotion Coordinator at Western Bulldogs Community Foundation.
Yes.
Which is an amazing mouthful. And we don't have a lot of your background, Naomi, so maybe you could start by sharing a little bit of how you ended up at the Bulldogs Community Foundation.
That I can. Well, firstly, thank you for having us. And there was a beautiful acknowledgement as well. So thank you for that. Yes, so as you said, John, I'm the Senior Health Promotion Coordinator at the Western Bulldogs Community Foundation. For those who might not know, the Western Bulldogs is, of course, a football club. I see that we've got people from all across Australia. So, we are the community service arm of the football club. A lot of people can wonder why a football club has health programs. And every club does have a community department, but we kind of go bit above and beyond and have a full foundation and do work across the entire West. So we're in that inner west of Footscray all the way up to the South Australian border is our kind of region. I myself was a volunteer for the Community Foundation when I finished uni and have, they couldn't get rid of me, and I'm now working here as full-time as well, which is really lovely. But yeah, did you want me to kind of jump into?
Well, yeah. Look, I forgot to introduce myself, John Millam. I am a victim of men's nutrition. I would classify myself as that, and a coach and trainer and facilitator. And I'm facilitating today, which just means I get to listen actually provide some, grunts of approval as you guys go through this. Right? So, yeah, this is the Healthy Habits Seminar. And I'm hoping, Naomi, that you can tell us about your incredible, the experiences of trying to promote healthy habits in the community, particularly for men.
Definitely. So one of my main programs that I work on is the Sons of the West, which is so my programs are for adults. The work we do at the Community Foundation, we do youth programs as well. But today I'll be talking about our health wellbeing programs and Sons of the West. And I guess that started 9 years ago now. And it came from an idea that the best way to engage with men, and older men particularly, was kind of bringing sport into the mix as well. So a lot of people come to our programs because, they love the Western Bulldogs. Sometimes they go for other teams and they just want a bit of a sticky beak, and then they fall in love with the program. And then we have people who couldn't care less about football and are just kind of keen to be a part of their community, or their friends have brought them along, their family or loved ones have thought, seen a flyer and thought this could be really good for someone. So we get a real range of people. The idea around the program is to try and cater to different people's needs. We want to make sure we're empowering our participants to have, the tips, tricks, tools and knowledge to help them on their health and wellbeing journey, because it's not a one size fits all approach. It's that really holistic view. So we want to, give them different knowledge around nutrition or mental fitness, social inclusion, and various different, topics in between that as well. So we're not the experts at everything. So that's why we have people like Claire who come and, share their knowledge and help, empower our participants along the way to, help them along, because everyone needs a helping hand sometimes, or a reminder or a kick in the butt to get back into those healthy habits, and that's what we try to do at least.
Fabulous. Is this like a boot camp for community members?
Boot camp's one word for it. It is 10 weeks. It is free. If you were to come to the session, you would have a bit of education. It's goes to 2 hours, sorry. So you have a bit of education at the start. So again, someone like Claire would come and speak for about 45 minutes. We then have a bit of a halftime huddle for some social connection, leaning into that football, theme there. You don't have to understand football to be a part of the program either. You don't have to be into sport to be a part of the program. Yeah. And then we do end with some physical activity. Again, we want to cater to everyone's needs. So we have a low intensity, medium intensity, high intensity group. So, if you're athletes like us, John, you've been at high intensity group, could be doing boxing or, different things, or you could be in the low intensity and just have more of that smaller weights and things like that. So we cater for everyone in that sense, and it's, a supportive environment. So, yeah.
So how do people, obviously, is it word of mouth or marketing or through members of the club?
It is all of that and more. So we partner with various different health services and local councils to help facilitate the program. So they also help us promote it. If you, walking around the streets and you would see some red, white and blue flyers, it's probably us. Through, emails to our members, council support, social media. If you're not already, you can check us out on our social media accounts, WBFC Foundation, or you can go to the Western Bulldogs and find us that way as well, and check out all the things we're doing. Like I said, it's not just our Sons of the West program. We have a range of youth programs as well, and Daughters of the West, which is for the women also. Awesome.
Now, you said empowerment a couple of times in that commentary. If I take that as meaning I can, I'm given something, the opportunity to do something.
Mm-hmm.
If I turn up and go through your 10-week program, what do I walk out with that I can keep going, right? Because obviously health and wellness is a whole of life thing, not just 10 weeks.
Definitely. We want to build that support system as well. So you would meet someone in your local area that you could support to continue on these journeys. We're not saying that you listen to one nutrition session and that's going to fix everything, but it is that first step for a lot of people. It's providing them access to health experts as well. So we want to give those services so they can continue on afterwards. We do have a What's in Your Backyard session within our program where we highlight, local services, whether it's a men's group or a walking group, a men's shed, or like community garden or everything else. So we want to kind of showcase that. So once the 10 weeks are done, and we'd love to be able to do it forever. Our participants are always like, more weeks. It is that kind of step to go to continue on as well, and try and have our participants feel like they can take those learnings and pass them on to their loved ones as well. So it doesn't just stop with those 10 weeks.
Fantastic. So what do you obviously working with men's fitness can be interesting because so many men are fit for a period of their life and then, things change.
Mm-hmm.
What have you found in your experience as the biggest challenge to get men back into a lifestyle that is, better for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's many different challenges. People are very busy at the moment. There are competing factors all the time into what's happening in people's lives. COVID was also something, and that can stop people from coming back out and wanting to be a part of groups like this, and which is completely understandable. So I guess it's just trying to cater to everyone's needs the best we can, showcase what we do. Like you mentioned before, word of mouth is a great way to kind of promote the program. And it's easy for me to sit here and tell you what we do and say how great it is. I might seem a bit biased, but when you have participants sharing with their loved ones the impact it can have, I think that's really powerful. We've had many of our participants, go on and bring a friend or force their friend to come along, and they've stayed and, told us that it has saved their lives as well. So yeah, sometimes you just need that helping hand, I guess, which is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I agree completely. Wow. What's the outcomes, right? So, at the end of 10 weeks, what are you seeing in your sons of the West?
Yeah, it's a range of things. It depends on the person as well. We encourage our participants to set goals, and some could be, increasing the amount of steps they do every week, or it could be, this year we focused more on gut health and about having more plant-based food in their diet. So at graduation, a few men were telling me, I've increased how many different plants I have on my plate every week, and little things like that is such an impact. It's also about having that community connection growing, and social connection as well is a really big part of what we do. So seeing that happen, we have one of our sites is a hybrid site. So one group education is delivered in English, the other room it's delivered in Vietnamese. The men come together for exercise. They don't speak the same language, but the connections they're formed are so beautiful. And just to see that impact in itself is, makes it all worth it sometimes. So yeah, the impact is far and wide,
So physical, but much more as well.
Definitely. Health is a holistic thing. It's not just being being able to walk up 3 flights of stairs and not being puffed. Yeah. I say that because we're on the 3rd level and we walk up, and I'm always puffing up the stairs as I walk up. But it is being able to be on top of your nutrition and having those social connection, emotional health. It's everything. It's not just, I think sometimes people can look at it as if, you've broken your leg, you can see that and that's an injury, but there are various things that you don't always see, which is just as important and really play a part in everything else we do.
Fabulous. So just a couple more thoughts. You mentioned mental fitness and emotional fitness, right? What part and how important do you see that as part of the whole picture?
Oh, I think it's such a big impact into everything. Mental fitness is something that we'll always touch on. Similar to nutrition, we'll always talk about these within our programs, and it is something that needs to be worked on. Like I was saying, you can, increase your endurance fitness and things like that in the gym, but mental fitness is something that needs to be built upon as well, that and has flow-on effects. So yeah, I think it can start with nutrition. You know, having that healthy eating can really have a flow-on effect to how you're feeling about yourself, and having that good energy to, you know, to be fit during the day. And I'm just seeing a chat. Yeah, mental fitness and resilience, I feel like they come together. You know, you can resilience is an aspect of being mentally fit. It helps. It's like a tool within that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I feel like this today is a great summary of the week. You know, sleep, move, connect, right, and you know,
Definitely.
the program put in place. Just one quick one, and then we'll give Claire a chance to build on her thoughts. But the Sons of the West program, and I know there's something similar in Canterbury and in Sydney in the NRL. Would the idea of premier football teams taking a lead in their community as examples, and you know, active in improving fitness in the community, do you think that's something that should be, you know, is possible across the range of clubs? We have other codes as well and so on. What do you? Yeah, how do you see that?
Definitely. I think we're in a really fortunate position where we are a trusted organisation, and so we're aware of that, and we want to use that to the best of our ability. So we want to reach those hard to reach community groups, and that's something that we take really seriously, and we're really proud that we're doing that work. And I think it doesn't just have to stop with us. It can go beyond us. I know the AFL are doing something at the moment called Ahead of the Game, which we're helping to facilitate, and it's going into sporting clubs, junior sporting clubs, and talking about you know, gender equity and things like that as well. So there's all these different avenues, and we can definitely be a voice that builds upon that. So yeah, I think everyone can get involved if you can. It's the right thing to do, and just supporting people within our community. You don't have to be a lover of football or whatever code it might be to be involved in these programs and to learn and to benefit. So yeah, I think it's definitely something we can all do to help.
Fabulous. And if anyone in our audience is you know, on a committee or a sporting club that might be relevant, could they contact you for more information?
Definitely. You can contact us at foundation@westernbulldogs.com.au, and we can try and connect, whether it's with our youth program, Sons of the West, Daughters of the West. Sons of the West is just finishing up, but it will be back in March next year. And so Daughters of the West, very similar to Sons, and that'll be starting in July. So yeah, I can put the contact in the chat as well.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Naomi. And I understand, Claire, to go to you, you have a presentation to
yeah.
So
yeah.
Cool.
Claire's going to kind of demonstrate what some of our sessions would look like. You know, within a Sons of the West, we're having, you know, fabulous experts like Claire and sharing the work they do. You've given her a great, you know, introduction already, and I'm sure she'll touch on it as well. But we're really lucky to have her.
Well, I feel lucky too. So Claire, take us through.
Yes. So I will skip to the next slide, a little bio about me. I am a dietitian and nutritionist. And can everyone see that screen okay? I think it's... Yep, great, cool. So I'm a dietitian and nutritionist, Masters of Dietetics, Bachelor of Nutrition Science is the little background. And I'm also an ex-chef, so I love food, and I'm not going to be here to tell you to cut out your favourite foods or anything like that. I'm a big foodie, so I encourage a balanced approach to nutrition that's, not restrictive or anything like that. I'm also a big fan of footy and running, and do a bit of triathlons and play footy myself. So very active as well. So I first wanted to talk about goals, because I think everyone has different goals when it comes to nutrition, and I want to touch a little bit of science to do with goals, and then we'll go into like some actual nutrition strategies to help everyone achieve their goals. So first up, I was going to talk about energy balance, which is basically how our body works. So coming into our body, we've got energy, which comes from food, which our food is made up of different macronutrients, and we have 3 of those. So we've got carbohydrates, protein, and fats, and all of these give our body energy, which we then use to do our daily activities as well. So that would be our energy outside of things. So this side, you can see it's a little bit more complex. Energy comes in and that's all we've got. Energy goes out is made up of a few different things. So this big blue one here is your metabolism, or like more technically called your basal metabolic rate. So that if you laid in bed all day, you would burn off all of this energy here just from literally doing nothing. So just your heart pumping, all your organs functioning, breathing, sleeping, just maintaining your muscle mass, it all uses a lot of energy. So we need to eat enough fuel to maintain those bodily processes. And then you also burn off a bit of energy just from digesting food as well, which I think is kind of fun. And then this pink one here is all your daily movement. So from the minute you leave bed to the minute you get back into bed, you're using energy to do all of that movement, plus then your intentional exercise on top of that. So ideally, if you were wanting to maintain your weight, your energy coming in and going out would just be equal. So it would come in, go out, and everything would stay the same. So some people have a goal of, maintain my weight and just want to perhaps be healthier, or, just be eating a little bit better, or maybe look at their gut health. But in terms of your food, you just want to be equal to what you're burning off. Whereas other people might have a goal of gaining some weight or gaining some muscle. So in that instance, you would want to be either decreasing like your energy usage. So maybe you were exercising a lot and you wanted to reduce that, but usually that's not a common thing. Normally we look at just eating more food. So if you ate more food and you were eating more food than what you were burning off, you would gain weight. Or if you had a high protein diet, you'd be putting on some muscle as well. So that might be some people's goal. Other people's goal could be maybe to lose some weight. So in this instance, we'd want to reduce the energy coming in. So reduce the food so that you're burning off more energy than what you're eating. So this little gap here, this little dotted line is called an energy deficit, or you might have heard it as a calorie deficit. They're the same thing. Energy, kilojoules, calories, they're all the same thing. So this little gap here would be that deficit. And then your body would say, hey, I don't have enough energy coming in from food. I need to find it from somewhere else. So it'll go and use your stored fat or your stored muscle and burn that off as energy. And that's how you lose weight. So they're kind of 3 different goals people commonly have. And I'll try and touch on them throughout the strategies to highlight, depending what your goal is, what you would do differently. So food, I mentioned macronutrients. So I'm going to talk about those in a little bit more detail. So the first one is protein. So protein helps to repair and build our body's tissues. So it's like the building blocks of muscles, but it's also really important for hormone and enzyme production as well. And it's also important for immune function. So really important to have, especially in the winter months when we're all getting a bit sick. We do need some protein in our diet. It's also thermogenic, which is a big fancy word for basically meaning that when you eat lots of protein, your body uses more energy to break it down. So you're kind of using extra energy if you eat a high protein diet compared to if you didn't. So if you're in a weight loss phase or you're wanting to lose weight, having more protein is going to be very beneficial. It also keeps us feeling really full and very satisfied as well. So again, really important if you're wanting to lose weight, because if you're feeling really full and satisfied, you're less likely to kind of overeat because you're feeling full and satisfied. So high protein diet, many ticks. The next one, I've gone too far. Carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are often very feared, but they should not be feared. They provide our body with energy and they're our brain's preferred energy source. So our brain absolutely loves carbohydrates and would very much prefer us to eat lots of carbohydrates. They're also very healthy for us. So depending on what type of carbohydrates you have, but if you choose whole grain ones, they're going to be very high in fiber and also very high in vitamins and minerals. So like your whole grain bread, brown rice, whole grain pasta, what else? Like potatoes, sweet potato, they're all very high in fiber and vitamins and minerals. So we really want to include those in our diet. Carbohydrates are also fruits and veggies. Again, very healthy food. So we absolutely don't need to fear them whatsoever. They're also very good for our digestion, promoting good heart health, and preventing chronic diseases as well. So very important to have in our diet. So that's our second macronutrient. The third one is fats. So similar to carbohydrates, we have more healthy fats and some less healthy fats. So the really healthy fats are ones that are high in omega-3 fatty acids. So that's things like avocado, nuts and seeds, olive oil, fatty fish like salmon, and eggs as well. So fats are really helpful for our brain development and function, also our skin and eye health. So really important in the early years, but also as we're aging as well, and for your functioning during work, to make sure you can actually concentrate for that brain function. And they're really helpful for absorbing vitamins as well. So there's certain vitamins that are called fat-soluble vitamins that we need fats to kind of absorb these vitamins. So need to have them in our diet, but we also want them in small amounts because per gram, they're quite energy dense. So like 1 gram of carbohydrates and protein is half the amount of kind of calories as fat. So we want fats, but just in small quantities. And they're also really good for our heart health when we choose the right types of fats. So there's those healthy omega-3 fats that I just mentioned. We kind of more so want to limit the saturated processed fats. That would be like the animal fat, that is on the side of your steak, or straight butter, or the fat that's in processed foods like chips and chocolate and those sorts of things. We want to minimize those ones. The next one is our macronutrients, which is our vitamins and minerals. So often these can be very much overlooked, but they're really, really important. So this check engine light here is because often we say that we need energy for fuel. And so we get energy from our macronutrients, our carbs, proteins, and fats. But the micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals, are really important because they're like the oil in the engine. So you can have as much fuel in the engine, but if there's no oil in the engine, your engine's not going to run smoothly. So you really need these micronutrients as well. So they're found in large quantities in fruits and vegetables, plus other whole foods as well. So like your whole grains that I mentioned, also like legumes, nuts and seeds, proteins, they're in pretty much all whole foods. So in less quantities, they're in the processed foods. But in your main kind of staple foods. They don't provide any calories or energy, but they help produce energy. So again, if you're feeling low in energy, it could be a sign that you're kind of low in these vitamins and minerals. And again, they're kind of helpful for every other essential process, like your immune function, your brain, skin, eye, bone health, everything. So next, how do we put all of this into a meal? Balanced meals. You need to have all those little staples of things, but how do we put it all together? So ideally, for the everyday person, or if you're kind of in a weight loss phase or an easy training phase, then we want to have half a plate of fruits or salad or vegetables, a quarter protein, and then a quarter carbohydrates. And then I think there was a question there. Is there a limit for protein intake? I can get to that in a moment, definitely, Michael. Cool. So half a plate salad or vegetables, a quarter protein, a quarter carbs is the rule of thumb for the everyday person or someone that's in a weight loss or easy training phase. And then if you were wanting an example of what that looks like, we've got a picture here. So like a quarter of the plate here is a steak, and then some potatoes for the carbohydrates, and then your salad. Another example of rice, chicken, and veggies. So again, you've got half that plate veggies, quarter protein, a quarter carbs. Or if it's more of a sweeter meal like a breakfast, we've used fruit as half the plate, and then a quarter of it is yogurt and a quarter of it is wheat bix as your kind of carbohydrates. So that's a general basis of how to balance out a meal. So you can kind of have whatever meal you want, but in these portion sizes, just tweak it a little bit to kind of make it more of that balanced, healthy meal. The next example is if you are doing a fair bit of training. So I say moderate training. So this would be if you were doing training that maybe 4 times a week, then you would need a little bit more carbohydrates for your energy levels. So you'd probably have about a third of a plate carbs and then a little bit less of your salad or your veggies. So this is where we kind of adjust things, and it's kind of similar to Michael's question of I can't give you an exact amount of, every person needs this much protein or this much carbs because everyone's requirements are a little bit different. The next one is if you were doing a lot of training. So some of like the footy players or endurance runners, they do a lot of training, or maybe if you're a tradie that then also does exercise, and tradies are quite active, then you'll have even higher energy requirements. So you need more carbohydrates. So probably half a plate of your meal should be carbs, a quarter protein, and then a little bit less of our fruits and our veggies. Hopefully that's all making sense there. The next one, I liked, really big fan of this strategy for weight loss, but also for increasing people's intake of fruits and veggies, because their stats for Australians is that pretty much all of us, I think it's about 90% of us, don't get enough fruits and veggies. So this strategy is really helpful for that, but then also for a weight loss phase as well. So volume eating is where you increase the volume of the food. So in this example, this is a plate of just pasta and sauce. So this is very delicious, but you could probably eat a lot of this before being full. And then sometimes people say if you just cut all your food in half, you'll lose weight. But then, cool, you'll also be starving and have no energy and be very deprived. Doesn't work. You probably do it for a few days and then you'll be like, I cannot do this any longer. You blow out and it just doesn't work. So a volume eating approach is where you eat the same size of your plate. So your plate's the same size. You still have your pasta, you still have your bolognese sauce, but you bulk it up with lots of vegetables. So in this example, we've got still pasta and the bolognese sauce, but we've added in a whole heap of vegetables. In this example, zucchini noodles. So your meal is the same size because we eat with our eyes and also our stomach needs to feel full as well. So you look at a plate visually. If it's really small, you're like, is that it? Like, I'm going to be hungry in 2 minutes. So you want the plate to be the same size. So mentally, you're going to feel full and satisfied from this meal. And then also when you eat that meal, you want your stomach to feel full and satisfied. So in this example, you've really bulked it up so that your stomach will feel full and satisfied once you eat it. So this is kind of, that volume eating approach, which I've got another example on the next slide as well of a snack. So which would fill you up more? I'm probably guessing that the example on the left where you've got a yogurt, a banana, a Freddo Frog and some almonds, that's a fairly decent sized snack compared to a small bit of banana bread that you're probably going to be hungry again in half an hour. But in terms of calories, they're actually the same size, even though this one is a lot bigger in volume. So a volume eating approach I really recommend to a lot of people. It's basically just increasing your intake of whole foods so that you're feeling full and satisfied. Plus, you'll get more vitamins and minerals in there, which will make you feel generally a lot healthier and kind of fitter as well. So that I definitely recommend to people. I'm just going to check the chat again.
Still kicking on. So
perfect. Okay.
There is a question there which where does au gratin, béarnaise, eggs, butter, sauces, and salad dressings fit?
Yeah, so that would fit in the kind of the fat section. So dressings, mayonnaise, sauces, they would be in the fats, and they're usually kind of incorporated into the rest of the meal. So let me just go back to the picture of the plate. So say this plate example, usually the fats are kind of incorporated into, say, like the cooking of the protein or the cooking of the carbs or the cooking of the vegetables, so that it's about a thumb size amount of fats that we want, which would be like a dressing or something like that. But it's not pictured on the plate because usually it's incorporated into that cooking process. So the next one I was going to talk about was snacking. So it's a very common issue with my clients, or also just question that I get all the time of like people just can't seem to stop snacking. And for this, we usually want to follow a volume eating approach as well. But I'm a big fan of, yes, have a snack, but let's make sure it's high in volume so you feel full and satisfied, but also make sure that it's balanced as well. So how we would balance that out is, first, we want to make sure we've got some sort of fruit or vegetable. Fruits and veggies are very big and bulky and provide a lot of fiber to fill you up without a lot of energy. So first, think of, I'm going to have a snack, choose a fruit or vegetable first. Next, add a source of protein. So we're thinking of that kind of portion plate, that balanced plate. Add a source of protein because it'll keep you feeling really full and satisfied. And also, as you spoke about, it's really important for lots of different bodily processes. Add a source of whole grain carbohydrates, again, for your energy, also for deliciousness, and also for fiber as well. and then add some sort of fats or some sort of flavoring. So this is what we want to think of. We think fruits or vegetables, protein, carbs, fats or flavor. When you're thinking of a snack, that's what you want to have in there to make sure it's high volume and also nutritionally balanced. An example of what that would look like on a plate is some examples just here. So let's use this first one as an example where it's like kind of rice beans, egg, cheese, tomato. That's a very filling kind of balanced snack. But if you just had cheese and crackers on their own, I guarantee you could probably eat like the whole box of crackers with cheese and kind of eat through it and not really feel that full or satisfied. You might if you've had the whole box, but you kind of can graze and graze and graze for a long period of time. Whereas if you add some tomato and some eggs or some chicken or something to that, because you've added that protein and because you've added that fiber from the tomato, you'll feel a lot fuller and you'll be able to stop eating a lot earlier on, which means that you're not overeating if you're in a weight loss phase or if you're wanting to watch your weight. So yeah, highly recommend trying to think of when you build your next snacks of these 4 different categories to put it together to reduce that snacking. Another example is like if you have a sweet tooth and you snack on chocolate a lot, have the chocolate, but also pair it with some fruit and say some popcorn. If you make yourself a nice little like snack plate of, some Tim Tams or chocolate with popcorn and fruit, that visually on a plate is going to look a lot more appetizing and filling and substantial than just 2 little bits of Tim Tam or like 2 little bits of chocolate. Not very filling or satisfying, but if you make it into a big snack plate, it's going to be a lot more satisfying and also still not super high in energy, which is or super high in excess sugar, which is important as well. The last one that I was
before we get on to drinks, Claire, there's just a couple of questions. I thought one in particular, you mentioned whole foods. Someone's asked, what exactly is a whole food?
Yeah, so whole foods are foods that haven't had much processing done to them. So pretty much all of the different foods that are listed on here. So like breads, yes, it's been processed from wheat into bread, but it's very minimal processing. So things like bread, pasta, rice, fruits, vegetables, meats, dairy products, like they've had a small amount of processing, but they've still very much resemble their original food, whereas things like potato chips and chocolate and muffins and cakes, they've undergone a lot more processing, which means that we've added more oils, we've added more fats, we've added more sugars and things like that. So they, that processing, when they add more of the fats and the sugars, makes them a little bit less healthy, and a lot of the fiber and the vitamins and minerals have been taken out of them. So yeah, whole foods are kind of like your staple foods.
Yeah, and just in terms of snack, there's a question about someone asked intermittent fasting ? And someone else asked, which is related, do you have advice about times of day to eat, i.e. breakfast early, avoiding eating before going to bed type stuff?
Yeah. So for intermittent fasting is just another diet. Like there's many different diets out there, like keto, calorie counting, 5-2, and intermittent fasting as well. It's just another way to restrict your food intake. So say, for example, it's similar to like if you were cutting out carbohydrates, for example, you would eliminate a whole food group, which means you eat less food. Same with intermittent fasting. If you only start eating from lunchtime to dinner and you cut out a morning snack and breakfast, you've just removed some of your food. So it's just a way of restricting your food intake to lose weight. There's not any special benefits to it or anything like that. It's just another diet. So some people naturally don't like to eat breakfast and kind of are naturally an intermittent faster, which is fine. You don't have to eat breakfast if you don't need to or don't need that energy levels. But for a lot of people, I don't recommend it if you exercise in the morning or if you have a very active job, like you're a tradie, or if you need to focus at work. I don't recommend it because you're just starting the day very underfueled. You're starting the day on a low, like an empty tank. So normally I don't recommend it, but if it works for you, then that's okay.
That's really cool. Someone else, really interesting question here. Someone's talking, they've recently changed to gluten-free, dairy-free, which is a very a much more common thing these days, right? And they've been losing weight about 5 kilos lighter than they were, and increasing portion size, but still lighter. Any thoughts and recommendations around that?
Yeah, so any recommendations to gain further weight? So to put on more weight, it's very beneficial to increase your fat intake. So as I mentioned before, fats are very energy dense. So like 1 gram of fat has like double the amount of energy compared to like carbohydrates or fat. So if you increase your fat intake, you're going to increase a lot of extra energy. So you could, put more avocado on your meals, or you could use full fat dairy products, sprinkle lots of cheese on your meals, kind of just making sure you're adding more where possible. I can see here you've said you've increased your portion size, but you're still not putting on weight. You can add extra fats, extra sauce, extra dressing, extra mayo, extra butter, more cheese, more avocado, just more of those really high fat products.
He does mention he's gluten-free, dairy-free. So perhaps those.
Okay, so not the dairy, not the dairy
so maybe
products.
Nuts and things like that.
Nuts and seeds. You could do coconut yogurt or dairy-free cheeses as well, which are made from coconut products. They will still be high in fats as well.
And another quick question before you go on to drinks is, someone was talking about swimming 2.5 kilometres a day, which is incredibly impressive, in cold water. And they eat a lot of fruit and breads, but people say eat too much fruit. Can you have too much fruit and veg?
I've never met anyone that has too many vegetables. So that was one part of the question. So yeah, you can't max out on vegetables unless you're just only eating one type of vegetable, and you might have too much of one certain nutrient. Fruit, for the average healthy person, have as much as you like, unless you have something like diabetes, then we have limits around that. But for the general healthy person, go for your life with fruits and vegetables. Most of us don't eat enough, and there isn't really any limits around it. So yeah, go for your life.
Beautiful. Thank you.
That's all right. Yes, drinks. So drinks, the first one, why is it there? It's loading. Cool. So the first one, a very common question, regular soft drink versus sugar-free soft drink. I'm asked about this a lot, and I wanted to chat about it. So here I've mentioned the calories and the sugar. So if you had one regular sugar soft drink, 40 grams of sugar versus a zero sugar soft drink, 0 grams of sugar is 1 calorie. So I always recommend people to switch where possible to a sugar-free or a diet soft drink, purely because you're immediately limiting 40 grams of added sugar, which is a huge amount. So for all all health recommendations are to limit added sugars, and just by making this one change, you can limit 40 grams of added sugar. And I'm also always asked, is there any issues with having diet sugar soft drinks or artificial sweeteners? In the quantities that humans consume them, so like maybe at max a couple of cans a day, there's absolutely no issues with having artificial sweeteners. If you were having, say, like 40 to 60 cans of soft drink a day, which I highly doubt anyone does, that's where there would be issues. But in the amounts that humans consume them, there's absolutely no issue. So a really good healthy swap is just switching from your regular sugar soft drinks, even with like mixes and alcohol as well, switch them to a diet sugar soft drink, and you've immediately made a really healthy habit. The last one quickly I wanted to touch on for drinks was just alcohol. So the recommendations for alcohol are 10 standard drinks per week, which you might think, great, 10 beers, I can do that. But actually 10 standard drinks is like 4.5 pints. So it looks a little bit different to what we think of it when we say 10 standard drinks. So a good way to kind of be able to drink perhaps a little bit more alcohol but still within the standard drinks is opting for a lower carb beer, or something like a vodka and soda, or a spirit and a sugar-free mixer, like I just mentioned, like a sugar-free Coke. So by switching to like something like a pure blonde, like low carb drink, you kind of would be able to have a few more drinks than if you had a regular strength, or by switching to like a vodka soda or some sort of other alcohol and soda, you could again reduce like the amount of standard drinks you're having and the amount of calories, but then be able to have more drinks to be within those recommendations.
Well, given that Wednesday, we were talking about alcohol, and apparently the standard recommendations have dropped again, and they're saying there is no safe alcohol. Well,
there's no safe alcohol, but I think also most people are not going to cut it out completely. So if we can be within a certain bracket of, okay, maximum 10 standard drinks, and give a bit of a guidance around that, that could be really helpful as well, rather than having it, okay, I've got to cut it out completely, stuff that, I'm not doing that, and kind of go to the other end.
Yeah, it's a challenge, definitely.
Definitely. And yeah, that was the end. So if there's any
I think
any
it's the beginning, Claire. It's not the end. It's the beginning of a new life, right? Of movement and nutrition. And I just had a quick question. If we go back to the start where you talked about, you showed us the way energy is consumed by us, or energy out during the day. And great news that I can lie in bed and actually still do a work, a sort of a basal metabolic workout, right, which is fantastic. But as long as I don't take the chips in with me. But I was interested in movement as older men, and I'm talking on behalf, hypothetically here, of course. As it becomes a challenge to say, or we drop off at recognise exercise like footy training or whatever. Can you make up the deficit and keep that kind of energy, the consumption levels high through movement, right? Because that seemed to consume a larger segment. Is there ways to increase casual movement to cover?
Yeah, so you could increase your exercise, so your energy out, and increase that more than what you've previously been doing, which would create that deficit. So if you kept your food the same but increased your exercise, you would then create a bit of a deficit. So you could do it that way. But it's a lot harder to increase your movement than it is to adjust your food, purely because one exercise session might, just for numbers, might be around like 300 to 400 calories roughly, depending on really how hard you push yourself. And that could be one snack size. So you're kind of going out there and really like pushing yourself for a whole hour, which you'd have to do kind of most days, or you could reduce the size of one meal or one snack. So yeah, exercise you can do it through that way, but often it's a lot harder. But if you're doing no exercise and then added in exercise, that would have a bigger difference. But it just kind of depends on the situation.
Beautiful. And there's a question just come in talking about best tips for avoiding snacking and eating more during winter rather than more protein fat.
Best tips. It probably would be not to cut out snacking, because as soon as you cut something out, you're going to want it. So it would be to opt for, I know you said other than more protein, but it would be to have more of that balanced snack. So if you are wanting a snack, to first make sure it's something with a source of fruit or vegetables in it, and then add something with that, like, the cheese and crackers or the yogurt and muesli, something like that. So I don't really recommend cutting out snacking. I'm also just include it and choose a healthy choice, because if you just had breakfast, lunch and dinner, there's massive gaps between breakfast and lunch and dinner that you are going to get hungry and have dips in energy. So you do need kind of a little snack to tie you over to the next meal. So yeah, my tip would be to not avoid it and to just have something, but choose something like that's healthy and filling.
More vegetables.
More vegetables, more fruit, more protein. Yeah.
Cool. And I was thinking, bringing you guys both together, right? The program, obviously, Naomi, you were talking about everybody being included, right? So people with, say, movement challenges or some form of inability, some compromised movement, whatever. And Claire, maintaining healthy weight as you get older becomes a challenge. So how, and rather than say going to the gym or something, is there something you can do every day, more of in your everyday that actually combats that sort of slow decline, but it, is equally effective in terms of maintaining healthy fitness or whatever?
Going for you'd have to go to a gym, but like doing some walking or doing some gardening or some yard work or just some like small body weight movements at home, that can really help with your movement and the decline as well. But I think if you have noticed as you get older that your movement has decreased, maybe because you're not going to a job anymore or something like that, then you would need to then adjust your food. So you might look at, okay, previously when I was doing a lot more movement or when I was going to work, I was having meals that were this size. Maybe I now just switch to a smaller plate and have the same meals, but just reduce the portion size or reduce the plate that I'm using instead. So you could, maybe look at your movement or look at just reducing the food a little bit, or just keeping your kind of increasing the fruit or vegetable component of the meal, which then if that part increases, the rest of it will decrease a little bit.
Mm. And Naomi, the idea, I love the idea of your program having different levels of energy and access, right? What do you think is really effective for guys who aren't necessarily interested in sort of bulking up or pushing weights or doing?
Yeah, I think it's best to work towards goals that you want. We're not expecting people to leave and look like Chris Hemsworth with the muscles and anything like that. It's just doing what you need for yourself. Like, we're all on our own journey. So if it is being able to increase the number of steps you do, we have a step challenge. So encouraging men to increase how many steps they do every day. That's a step in the right direction. So it's just doing things that can help improve your overall health and well-being. And they might start as, those small goals, and then they can grow as you go as well. No one's expecting everything to change straight away. I don't think we need to put those pressures on ourselves. But, as Claire said within her tips, it's just little things can really make a difference as well.
So we often hear that, don't we? We're encouraged to make small changes, but from my observation with men, they tend to want to do the dramatic, right? So make the big changes and then sort of be frustrated, and trying to maintain them. Do small changes really work, right? Is that something? Can you achieve big results from small changes?
Yeah, you absolutely can. I think about all the times that you've tried to make really big changes and think about if it has worked for the long term. I'm guessing that it probably hasn't, or you would be at your goals still and you'd be sustaining that goal. So think about that, reflect on that. And then small changes absolutely can. I see with all of my clients, when we make lots of small little changes, they add up to make a massive amount of change, but they start off being a lot more achievable. So you start off with that 1 to 2 small changes, you nail that, then you go on and do the next 1 to 2 small changes, nail that. And eventually over time, you've made a huge amount of change, but it has seemed a lot more easy. And you've been able to do it without being like, oh, I'm cutting out absolutely everything out of my diet, or I'm having to slog myself in the gym. So yeah, it definitely works. I 100% know it works.
So we've got the Kim and Claire stamp of confidence on making small changes. And so I'll ask that. And I know, diets work because they're easy. I've done thousands of them. But I would ask you guys, just your best tip, right, before we sort of wrap up. It's been amazing, but I just say, okay, put you guys on the line, Claire and Naomi, what is your best tip from your perspective experience for a bloke to take away from this session?
My best tip is to add to your diet, don't take away. So add more fruit, add more vegetables, add more protein. Add, don't take away. As soon as you take away, you're left with nothing and you're going to feel deprived and you hate it. You're not going to stick to it. So add those things first, add the healthy things, and the less healthy things will naturally fall away. My top tip.
And Naomi?
Hard to follow, but I guess to add to that, it's about not putting pressure on yourself as well. We're not going to be perfect all the time, but I think it's about being kind to yourself and taking those small steps, and you will see changes, and getting support as well. Like, if you feel like you need that extra support, there are people like Claire everywhere who can offer that support. Be kind, no pressure on yourself, and small changes can make a difference.
I think Claire's unique, right? But I'm sure other people are equally as
just as fabulous.
No, they're brilliant tips. Thank you, guys. And I know we're winding up. I just wanted to thank you both on behalf of the Australian Men's Health Forum and Healthy Habit Week, Australian Men's Health Week. You guys have wrapped it up so well, and I'm full of inspirational things to take away and fail at it. Oh no, I'm not allowed. I must be positive to implement and achieve going forward. So thank you for that, and good luck with your program. It sounds amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us as well. You've been such great supporters of what we do, and we really appreciate it, and we're glad to be here. So thank you for having us.
No, welcome. I'd love to see every club have a program like that. I reckon it'd be awesome. Thank you so much. Hey,
thanks for having me.
No worries. Brilliant. Someone said better than the other day's temperance session. I think that was a hard session for us blokes to go through, right? A bit of hard truth there. Thank you, Andrew, for that note. I have to agree. It was a bit of a slap in the face. But I'm sure we're going to make those small changes moving to those big outcomes in the end. So I think that's about it. We'll wrap it up for the day. I just wanted to say, Kim, I think your sourdough this morning is fine. I think that's what we can take away from the information provided by these guys today. I'm looking forward, and that inspiration, that page of snacks has just inspired me. If ever I got a page of snacks like that, I think I would be, a very happy camper. So, great guys. Anything else? Any words from in the chat from the crew? Thank you all very much for having the endurance and the perseverance to be here on Friday for this presentation. One of the best. If anyone wants to speak, let the guys know, and we can entertain that for a minute or two.
John, the survey?
Good point. Thank you. I'm a rookie at this, so I appreciate the support. We have a survey link. And one of the guys can put that in chat, or is that? Yep. I'll take it to be there. That survey, guys. Just tell us. That's just about telling us what you'd like to see, what worked, what didn't work, and so that we can really provide information and formats that gel with you going forward. So you'll get an email follow-up, but if there's any chance of putting it in the link, there it is. We'll leave that there for a moment so you can click on that and fill in the survey. Anything else, guys? Robin, we're good? Kim, we're all good?
Yep, we're great.
Thank you. Have a fantastic weekend. I know I'll be off to the footy on Saturday, and I'll be walking straight past the pie and looking for the carrot and zucchini sticks that they offer at the canteen. So maybe. But anyway, enjoy your weekend, guys, and remember Men's Health Week. See what you can take out of it. Make those small changes, and we'll all be better off for it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.